Welcome back, Inebri-arts. This is Andy of the Inebri-art podcast on NPR radio, apparently. We're back here at the craft beer cellar, and that was my quiet open because Fish always yells at me for burying the needle. And so if you're in Plymouth and need beer, come see Tatum at the beer cellar. They have it. There's wine, there's sake, there's kombucha. If it's alcoholic and fermented, she probably has it. Located on Main Street, easy to find. And so about a month ago, a little more, when AJ was on. Research? You listening? He's not even listening. So AJ recommended some stand-up comedians, and they weren't available, so we brought Sarah Martin on.
Yeah.
Who we met probably maybe a month or so ago when we did a little Pack TV thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, with movie reviews.
Yes.
And I was like, how am I here?
Well, it was so weird because they're like, oh, we want you on this movie show. I'm like, great. And then, like, heading into it, they're like, oh, it's about the Oscars. And I'm like, I haven't seen any of those movies.
Yeah.
So,
I don't really follow that shit.
Yeah. So, welcome to the show. So, what's it like being a stand-up? That's a terrible question, but I just felt
Don't do it. Yeah. What's it like doing a podcast in a basement?
It's a basement of a cellar, so it's like a sub-basement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how long have you been doing stand-up?
I've been doing stand-up for 11 years.
And what possessed you to get involved in that?
I'm an idiot.
Okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you kind of I feel like this is also a canned question, but, like, were you class clown? Like, or did you, like, at what point were you like, I'm funny?
I realized it could get me out of some trouble sometimes.
So it's more like talking your way out of shit?
Yeah, or get me into trouble a lot more times.
That's usually where my mouth gets me.
Yeah.
Is like I start saying things and, days later people are like, oh shit, that was funny. And I'm like, I didn't mean for it to be, I probably shouldn't have said it. So were you all, like, did you watch a lot of stand-up as a younger person? I don't know if like kids.
I would say that I was more drawn towards stand-up than like the average kid. Like I would sit down and watch specials and stuff like that. Like we used to steal the cable off our neighbors because like if you turned into Channel 3, you could see what they were watching. So it was like, oh, I hope they're on Comedy Central today.
Okay, so Comedy Central. So let's see. I was more of like the HBO comedy special. No
one had HBO money. No,
back in the day, it was like VH1. Was it the VH1 half-hour comedy hour? Or is that MTV?
I think MTV did one.
I feel like at one point everybody had a comedy show.
Yeah.
It's not an obvious, like, you don't get into it and be like, I'm going to be rich.
Yeah, no, don't. If, like, anybody's thinking, like, listening to this, thinking, I want to do stand-up comedy, what's that like? Because I want to be rich, like, fucking quit now. Please, go away.
So, like, how... Is it a need to do it? Like, what keeps you at it? I mean... Other than,
if there's no monetary value necessarily.
Right. And I'm not saying that you don't get paid anything, but it's not gonna...
I would say what keeps you going or what makes you want to do it in the first place, I don't know. It's different for everybody, but like what keeps you in is like once you get that first laugh or whatever from a crowd, there's no better feeling replacement to that. And it's like you have to keep chasing that high. Or if it was really low, then you're like, I gotta fix this soon.
Yeah. So did you kind of, like in your first attempt, were you getting laughs right away, or were you like, oh, that was not good?
Yeah, and there's like 5 people there. I think it was mostly my friend Rick who like came with me, but like looking back at it, I don't think I would have done it if it was complete silence. I don't think I would have continued.
Have you had those really horrible, like...
Oh, I've had a lot of horrible... I've had a lot of great things, a lot of horrible things. It's like the crazy part with stand-up is like one night you'll be in a theater, it's like 400 people, right?
Yeah.
The next night you're in a bar getting heckled by somebody who like barely even knows what you're saying. Like, and then sometimes you just get roped into these gigs that you're like, why did I agree to this? Like, I did this to myself.
Yeah.
Like this show. No, it's a...
Aw, man.
I'm just kidding.
No, it's all right. I think...
No, this is actually the nicest basement I think I've ever been in.
Wow, it's it's recently redone because they had a crazy water leak. Like their sprinkler system let go.
Oh.
So
we get to be in the newly...
It's newly renovated.
Newly renovated room.
Do you know, it just occurred to me, we've had 3 stand-up comedians on the show, and 2 of them have been women.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Do you find...
That's not usually tipping the scales that way, yeah.
I know, right. But do you find it's... I don't want to be rude, but there's a preconceived notion that...
You want to ask, right.
Female comedians aren't funny?
Right. No, that's definitely... I think it depends on who you ask.
Yeah. Is there like a lot of kind of sexism in the clubs and whatnot, or is that just kind of...
I think it depends on who you ask. My experience, sometimes you'll get singled out like after a show or whatever. I was doing a show and the guy kept going up like, "Oh, great job, ladies," and then like would address the other like guy on the show by his name, and then like sometimes I've had it happen a few times where someone will come up. Normally, I don't find women funny, but you, and I'm like, oh well. Normally, I don't assume that men are idiots, but you.
And what are kind of the general, like, do you have general topics that you kind of stick with? Like Jim Gaffigan always does food stuff, and
yeah, I mean, whatever comes to my mind, whatever is going on in my life, I think, because like it evolves, I think, over the years. I don't believe that like if Eddie Murphy came out with a new special, he'd be talking about the same stuff now.
No, I don't think it would fly.
It definitely wouldn't fly, first off.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I don't think that any comedian who's truly working on their act is going to stick with the same topics necessarily. I know Jim Gaffigan talks a lot about food.
Right.
And it's great, and it's clean. I think if you're trying to go for a certain thing, there is maybe some limiting topics that you can go towards, but
yeah,
I don't know.
I've kind of noticed there's been like a lot of stand-up comedians who were returning to stand-up. Like,
Ellen came out with her new special.
Oh, that was really good. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
I saw, I didn't even watch it because I don't really like him. The King of Queens. I can't think of his name.
Oh, Kevin James.
Yeah, I saw him just do one. Ray Romano did one that I really liked.
Oh, I didn't see that.
It was, he went back to the 2 clubs that he got his start in and just did drop-ins.
That's awesome.
And recorded the drop-ins, so just showed up. And I think he might even have had, like, I can't remember now. I think he had, like, a note paper that he was working off of. And then, like, he did, like... I think like
so it's like really, really untested.
And he did like a 30-minute set at one place. Walked out, and like the camera never cut. Just followed him down the street, and he walked into the next place and like went right up on stage.
Yeah,
it was really cool. And like he's one of those guys that like I forget how funny he is.
Yeah, I think he's underrated. Like, I didn't like his show that much.
Yeah. I felt like he was the least funny part on the show.
Yeah. Like I love
everyone
the
else.
Father and
father's
like, the
hysterical.
brother and the mother. Like, yeah, all the dynamics were great, and it was a well-written show. But, like, I didn't know his stand-up was that solid.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really good special. It's on Netflix. And, but I think didn't Seinfeld do one recently on Netflix?
That was a really good one.
Yeah. And Chappelle's done some.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a comedy nerd, so I try and watch most of the things that I can. But.
So, who are your biggest influences, and then who are like a couple lesser known people that you'd recommend?
Well, I mean, that's hard to narrow down, really. Like I loved, like, when I first got into stand-up, my favorite comedians were, like, Nick Swardson, Sarah Silverman, like, Lisa Landry, Wanda Sykes.
I was never a big... I like Wanda Sykes.
Yeah.
I was never a big Sarah Silverman fan. I felt like she was... overly dirty for the sake of being overly dirty, which I just
almost shock value-y.
Yeah, and the first few times you're like, okay, that's fine, but then I felt like it's not that she's not funny. I just kind of felt
she's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, I felt like it was a little forced.
I loved her show though.
I don't know if I ever saw it. But
It
I know
was so over the top goofy.
Yeah. Is there one of these people that like would be like kind of that dream gig to like work with?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
Bill
on the
Cosby?
List. Yeah, right. I would be in my dreams. Yeah, it's definitely. He was one of my favorite comics. That sucks so much. He was like, growing up, he was like,
he was
the
hysterical.
Comic.
Yeah.
And like the storytelling, like I love that because like a lot of my comedy I'll do, like it's a couple minute bit or whatever. Like it's not just one-liners, and like I mean he's just a master of storytelling.
Yeah.
And it was just so well crafted, and it was clean and funny. And
right.
You go back and watch it as an adult, still funny.
Yeah. Well, like one of his most, I don't know if it's most famous bits, but one of the ones that I remember specifically is about him and his brother going to sleep at night when they're kids, and like all the trouble they got into, and it was like a whole side of an album. How old am I? But like it was one bit, and it was like 30 minutes long, 40 minutes long.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, and it was amazing. It was constantly funny, and it was like a whole story.
A one story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get the other people on the other side. I just watched it. Jimmy Carr has a new Netflix special, and he is very set up punchline. It's like not quite one-liners, but even to the point where at one section he's trying to come up with the shortest joke possible, and I think he got it down to 2. I wish I could remember what it was, and I'm sure I wouldn't deliver it, but it was like 2 words, and it was really funny. So you take from your life mostly?
Yeah, I mean, half the time it's just like, like whatever happens when I wake up is like, okay, well, that was kind of fucked up. Let's talk about it. Like,
so do you feel like, do you get stressed out if your life gets like in a rut and boring? Because then you're like, I don't have new material?
Yeah, like how do you talk about like, oh, well, like I got all the laundry done today, and I did the dishes and took the dog to the vet and cleaned my car. Like that's not, you have to like sit down and like really try and make something funny out of it. I feel like I like to talk about different experiences for sure, but like just stuff that pops out of my mouth sometimes I'll be like, oh, well, I guess I should write that down. And I think that's the difference between like a funny person and a comedian, because I know plenty of my friends who are way more funny than I am, and they just don't write it down, and they don't go on stage, and it's like an in the moment thing. Like comedians just save that, and they're like, I should tell this again.
Well, so that is kind of the difference between a funny person and a comedian. Not that that made it sound like comedians aren't funny, but you have to be able to tell that joke again and again and again and again and again, and
recreate the same situation.
Right.
It's not an inside joke with your friends or whatever. You bring the audience in with you on the inside joke.
How do you keep that joke sounding fresh, like it's the first time you told it? Like, is that the challenge?
No. I mean, if you like the joke, you're happy with the joke, maybe you're bored of telling it, stop telling it. That's my theory on it, is because it should be fun. At the end of the day, it should be fun, and it's going to read very obviously, I think, if you're not having fun up on stage. Like, I don't want to watch you. Just up on stage
being like, kicking across the road, knock, like...
Unless, like, that's your thing.
But, like a Stephen Wright kind of thing?
Yeah. And then it's hilarious.
Oh,
but,
God, he's great.
Yeah, no, I think you should be happy with what you're telling, or else the audience is going to tell right away, too. Like, I wouldn't want to watch that if someone who's like, well, you guys know this punchline. Like, no, I don't.
Yeah.
It's your joke.
When you put together a certain amount of minutes, how much is kind of new stuff? Like, how often do you try to roll out new stuff? And
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it just kind of like a couple extra minutes here and there of new stuff amongst the stuff that you've done before?
Well, if I go out, like, to an open mic to try out just new material, it's not a show, like, there's no expectation, really, of being funny. It's hashing out new jokes.
So you save your kind of new stuff for open mics?
Yeah, because I want to test out the joke first, unless it's, like, one quick line or two that I think is going to be good.
Yeah.
Or it's, like, crowd work that you just can't, like, whatever happens at a show.
Yeah.
Stays at the show. No, it doesn't. It turns into another story in my act. But is like, I think that I like to go out and just go to an open mic, test out my new stuff. I think that I have like 10 minutes of material.
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be like 2 or 3 by the end of the week, you know?
Just because you kind of like weeded out what doesn't work and
what works, what doesn't work, all the filler words that don't need to be there.
Yeah.
Like, get to the point. Shut up, Sarah.
Do you ever find yourself kind of rambling on stage? Like, is it pretty scripted? Like, you know exactly what you're going to say specifically? Or is it more just kind of like this is a general idea, and I'm going to hit this point, this point, and this point, and how I get there doesn't really matter?
Yeah, I mean, that's, for me, at least. I know a lot of people do it differently. It helps them time stuff if they know, like, oh, I'm usually at about, like, 10 minutes when I hit this joke or whatever. So you do have to kind of say it in the same-ish way. I don't. Like, there's some people I know that will type out their entire set word for word and be like, well, I'm going to say it word for word. And I think in general you do see, if you watch the same comedian over and over.
Yeah.
Like Cat Williams for a few years kept doing the same special, I swear to God. And he just kept releasing it, but it was like, it's the same words.
Yeah.
For the most part, there might have been one little thing changed on it, but that can change a joke entirely.
Right.
And the emphasis on it too. So like if you're trying to work out a joke, it's like, well, maybe the punchline's good, it just, needs to be reversed around or whatever. Like, just workshop all that stuff out. But yeah, you try and stay consistent. If you know the joke works, why change it too much? Unless you add on another punchline.
Yeah. And do you get like feedback from your fellow comics to be like, oh, you should like put this little tag on it, or maybe if you said this word instead of that word, because I've actually heard people say, what is it, like hard consonants are funny or something?
Oh yeah,
you hear all sorts of weird shit.
Right. Like, who did the study on that?
Yeah.
Like, there's more laughter when you end on a K.
Right? Yeah. That kind of shit.
Yeah.
But do you get that kind of feedback from other comics to be like, oh, well, use this word or
not a whole lot. I wish I got a little bit more feedback, because I feel like I give out a good amount of feedback too sometimes, just because like most of the time at like open mics and stuff, there's a lot of new people, and I'm like, oh well, maybe here's a line or whatever, and I'll sometimes get some stuff, and like AJ's given me like a tag that I'm like, all right, let's use this and try it out. And like, if I say it in the way that I'd say it, not the way that he'd say it, it works,
Yeah. And then if it doesn't work, you go back and like scream at him.
Yeah, no,
be
then
like,
I'm like,
you asshole.
You're an absolute hack, and I hate you. Yeah.
Yeah. So like he does a lot of like runs rooms and stuff. How is this like your full-time gig? Is this like this is your job?
This is my job. You're looking at it. No, I do a lot of writing. That's actually more so. That usually pays more bills.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
like,
my full-time gig.
Like what kind of writing?
Comedy writing.
For other comedians, like
not for other comedians, but for like punch-ups on scripts and stuff like that.
Like, for no shit.
Lately, I've been doing punch-ups on a video game dialogue, and that's been paying the bills.
Really? So you make the video game dialogue funny?
Yeah. Well,
I haven't been playing video games in a long time.
Try and write it in their voice. Sometimes I'm like, I don't think this is that great to start with.
Yeah. I think the last thing I remember seeing as far as dialogue is all your base R belong to us.
Yeah.
Which, nothing? Anybody did? Any fish got that?
No.
It's like a old Nintendo video game that got misinterpreted.
Which Nintendo game?
Oh God, research.
Yeah.
I have this whole podcast, so questions like this come up, and we force Fish to Google things because he has this compulsive disorder.
You gotta know. You just gotta know.
I don't have to know anything because I'll just be like, hey, I wonder if Val Kilmer's got a movie coming out, and Fish will take out his phone and start Googling, so it's just fun.
Well, fuck you.
And the video game is?
Okay. The game was Zero Wing.
Yeah, no idea. I don't think I've ever played it. I just knew about it.
Yeah, no. I don't think I played that either.
One of those cultural osmosis things.
Yeah, it's from like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
So
I still have my Nintendo.
Yeah. Nice. There's been this big thing down here lately where there's a place out of Taunton, I think, called Bowser's Basement, and they have retro game nights.
What?
Yeah, so like over at the Speedwell or Mayflower Brewery, they'll bring in like, I don't know, half a dozen monitors and old video games, and it
That's
gets
awesome.
super crowded.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with writing scripts or punching up scripts for video games? Because that seems like a really niche.
Yeah, right. No,
Like,
it's like a freelance thing, basically. I just kind of stumbled into it because I was writing roast jokes for whoever wanted to hire me. I was like, well, what the hell am I good for? And I'm really is just being a smartass. So I was like, all right, let's put it out there, see if anyone will hire me. And then I got hired for a few things, and like word of mouth traveled, and then like you just get hired by like a company or whatever that's like, all right, here's this, and like sometimes they pay by the hour, sometimes it's by the gig, but it's a hustle too, because it's like, but it's a nice thing too, because if I travel, if I'm doing a show on the road or whatever,
Then you can work wherever. Yeah.
still do that and make sure that I'm okay.
Yeah. Have you worked on any notable games that
I don't think so.
people who play video games would know? Cause
Probably
I
not.
don't, you know?
They don't even most of the time give me the titles.
So you can just get the script.
I don't. My name doesn't get attached to this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just ever. I don't care.
Right.
Some of them, most of them, I'm like, I don't think I'd play this, but I'm more of like a Madden fan.
Really?
As far as I know.
Huh.
But that's like the only video game I've been like really into in the past couple of years. Other than that, I'm just like Mario 3 is like the best game that's ever existed. So
gave up
it there.
video games so long ago, like purposefully.
Yeah.
And
It's a time suck.
it's a huge time suck, and when you're kind of self-employed, no one's going to be like, you need to stop playing video games and do some work.
Time to go to work.
Yeah, so I just gave them up, and I tried to kind of get back into them at one point, and I'm like, I felt like my father. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't know what this button does. This guy is constantly jumping, and I don't want him to jump. And
why am I continuously running into a wall?
Yeah,
why am I that guy right now?
The thing that killed me was, I remember like Contra and, run 'em around, shoot 'em up games, and then everything was like sneak. And sneak around. You have 3 bullets, but if you shoot your gun at all, you lose. I'm like, this is the stupidest fucking thing ever. I'm wasting my life.
It's the stealthy one, like first-person shooters.
Yeah. So
I'm so god-awful at those games.
So, like, Mario Kart, that's still kind of the things that I like. Anything you can get drunk and play against your friends.
Yep.
Those are the fun ones. Did you excel in writing as a kid?
I think that's the only reason why I was able to pass English. I would never do any of the homework. I would never hit any of the marks. I would sometimes just not even go to class. Most of the time. But like it'd be like, all right, here's the
Stay
final.
in school, kids.
Yeah, here's the essay or whatever. I'd be like, all right, I've got this. And half the time I just make up shit. And I think the teachers appreciated that portion because that's probably the only reason why.
Yeah.
That worked. It's like, you know what? That shows enough creativity and it's a good enough grammar or whatever.
Sure, there was aliens in Hamlet.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, no, I think that helped me skate by a little bit because my brain just is not geared towards math necessarily, unless it's like, how do you tip your bartender? Really fucking well.
Oh, of course.
That's
yeah. Unless you're never going there again.
Yeah, right. No, I would never.
Have you had, like, what is the was there one gig that you had that really kind of like stood out where you're like, oh shit, I think this is something I can do? Like, I don't want to be like, oh, I've made it.
Some sort of revelation of like, maybe I can make this like a thing.
Yeah, kind of the point where you're like, okay, I think I'm a comedian now.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like, there's so many different things, because half the time you think like, all right, like, cool, I got this bigger gig and I started to get paid or whatever, and but then at the same time, like, I just want to be on stage. Like, I do want to just be performing, and I don't think there's ever a point where it's like, well, at least not for me. I don't think I've ever been like, well, I'm above this or whatever.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that, but just kind of that moment where you're like...
You just call yourself a comedian. I think everyone, after they do their first mic, is like, well, let me change my Facebook job.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And do you have, like, do you want the, Everybody Loves Raymond show? Like,
no.
Do you want to get into acting, or is it just...
Acting, maybe, but, like, I wouldn't want a sitcom, like a straight sitcom necessarily. Like, that wouldn't be... Maybe
like a Bill Burr thing, show up on Breaking Bad kind of thing,
Yeah, maybe something like that, or just, I don't know. I just feel like anything that has a laugh track or a live studio audience, I want nothing to do with it, unless it's like a, here's your spot on Conan or something. Like, I want nothing to do with that.
Why is that?
I hate being told what to do, I think, in that aspect, because it's like, here's where you laugh. And, like, if you ever sat in a live studio audience half the time, like, I went to the live taping of Maury.
Like, as in Maury Povich?
Yes. And I was like, how many people are the father? And, like, they tape, like, 5 different episodes, just like boom, boom, boom. Like, it's all different stuff.
Were you laughing at the wrong spots?
The whole time.
I feel like that's the kind of thing where I'd be like, you're supposed to be yelling, and I'd be laughing. And
they hold up signs, though, and tell you, like, here's where you laugh, here's where you boo. And I'm like...
Oh.
No, I'm going to make this so ridiculous. So, like, I just had the most, like, over-dramatic reaction possible, because I was like, no, we're going to really make fun of this. And then they would pan over. Like, I watched the episode. They'd pan over and then be like, oh, no, this is too ridiculous. Go back.
Like,
don't
cut
make
that
sure
girl
you don't
out.
include that girl again. Yeah.
So you got to cross that off your resume.
Yeah.
Wow, Maury.
I think it's hacky to be like, here's where you laugh, here's what to do, and when to do it. Like, let people just experience it the way they should, and that's why I enjoy like a Netflix or whatever. Yeah, because there's no
laugh track.
Yeah, no. What's that show that's been on forever with Sheldon and?
Oh, Big Bang.
Yeah, I cannot stand that show.
Really?
That is the worst. It is my anti-comedy.
Okay.
I cannot do it. It's just so predictable, and the laugh track.
And I feel like things like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu are pushing TV to be less predictable, but I don't think they've figured it out yet.
No. It's exciting, though. It's kind of cool.
There's just so many amazing things on...
There's new formats.
Oh, yeah. And even with like YouTube, if you have a clever idea and your runtime is whatever you want it to make, whatever you want it to be, and I watch a morning show every single morning. I get up and as I brush my teeth, I put it on. It's like, I don't know, 12, 15-minute runtime, and it's these couple of lifelong friends that generally eat really disgusting things and play stupid games, and now they're one of the biggest YouTube channels, and
why not?
Right, and they're just generally funny, and so literally anyone kind of has that capability where they can just put something together. And
yeah, some people shouldn't, but yes,
100%. Some people shouldn't.
No, but it's cool because it changes up the format. There's not like necessarily it's got to be a 30-minute sitcom script that has to follow some sort of like layout of commercials and things like that. Like, as far as a writing perspective, even with like Orange Is the New Black or whatever.
Great show.
Yeah, amazing show, but changed up the game with Netflix and then also the dramedy.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, you're allowed to be real serious, you're allowed to be real funny.
All at the same time.
And it's an hour long, but then, like Russian Doll came out, and that's like, what, 20-minute episodes?
I still haven't watched that.
Yeah, it's
I haven't watched
so
it
much
because
shorter.
is it good?
I loved it, yeah.
Because I saw it and I'm like, this is just like Happy Death Day.
Happy Duck Day?
Death Day?
Oh, Death Day?
Death Day. It was a movie that came out. It actually just came out with a sequel not too long ago, where this girl wakes up, dies, wakes up, dies, and she's trying to find out who her killer is.
Oh, she was murdered.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I saw that, I'm like, oh, this is just like a horror takeoff on Groundhog Day, and I would have would have completely dismissed it until at the end they were like, oh, this is just like Groundhog Day. And then I saw the ad for Russian Doll. I'm like, oh, it's just like that. But you're the second person who told me it's really good, so I have to check it out.
Yeah, no, it's. I was skeptical, but I also didn't see any of the commercials because I think commercials also just destroy the surprise.
Yeah, they
put in the best parts in movie trailers and all that stuff. If it's something that I'm like, all right, you know what, I respect who's in this, who wrote it.
Yeah.
Then I don't want to hear it beforehand. I just want to delve into it.
Have you seen, I think it's just on Netflix now, Happy?
Mm-mm.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
It is this ex-cop who's now like a crazy hitman who could be immortal. I don't really know, and I've seen the whole season. Who ends up being, I don't know, stalked is the right word, by an imaginary friend that is a blue-purple unicorn voiced by Patton Oswalt.
Okay.
And they're going on this mission to...
I feel like I did see a commercial for that.
Find this girl who's been kidnapped by this, psychopath Santa Claus. It's just a fucked up show, the whole thing, but it's so good.
It's like if Adventure Time was real.
Yeah, and it's so funny and super dark.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll check it out.
Yeah. And then, imaginary friends do, the imaginary friend does Blow, and, it's just, and I love Patton Oswalt. I think he's great.
I love him, yeah.
Have you gotten to work alongside with anybody of that level?
Yeah, a few people.
Because you said you tour.
By tour is just I drive and then break my car, but yeah.
Well, that's still touring.
Yeah. No, I recently worked with Mary Lynn Rice Cub. That was cool. She's been on a million different things. And then, before that, I've worked with a good amount of people that, I guess are notable if you know comedy. But sometimes it blows my mind if you tell just someone who's not a big comedy fan, not a big comedy nerd or whatever, be like, oh, yeah, well, Bill Burr stumbled in, that was a thing. Who? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. Unless you're Kevin Hart, people just don't know sometimes.
It's weird, because, I think Bill Burr is, household name.
I think so, too.
But
and
clearly
I assume
not.
so, and he's not. To some people, and I'm like, he's touring internationally.
Right, yeah. And it's so weird, because there's other people like, John Mulaney, who, again, should be a household name, but most people have no idea who you're talking about.
And he's amazing. Yeah. Did you see Crashing?
Crashing? No.
The Pete Holmes wrote a show basically about being a stand-up comic in New York.
No.
The last episode, John Mulaney was in it, so...
Oh, really?
That just reminded me of it.
Is it on, Netflix or Hulu or something?
I think it's HBO.
Oh.
Yeah, I got that HBO money now. Streaming it.
Well, streaming it's what,
yeah. It's
I was gonna say,
$4 a month or
is
something.
Is it? Oh, I might have to
I don't know what it is, but...
Do you...
I can recycle bottles and afford HBO.
Is that every comedian's dream? Do you want that special?
I feel like that used to be the goal for everyone, because I think the format for that's changed too.
Yeah.
It was like that half-hour Comedy Central special, right? Because they did the half hours. And
well, it really started on HBO.
Right, with the hour, like a night with...
Like George Carlin was like the king of it.
Right. No, and like Richard Pryor, too.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a lot of a night with whatever in the like late 80s, early 90s, which is like the market was just saturated. And I think that's probably why like I was even remotely interested in stand-up comedy in the first place, because it's like I just kind of saw it. It was always on something. And I mean, now there's a million different places you can see it, online or whatever, on TV. But they're doing the like 15-minute specials, which is really cool, I think.
Who's doing
there's
it's
called The Lineup.
Yeah. I've seen that. And like it's different. It's like a series almost, and it's different comedians.
Yeah. And they feature these awesome comics who, they need their time to shine too. Yeah. But it would be a lot more money to produce like all these individual specials and get their name out there. I think that is like the mark to get at the moment. Personally, I don't. But like, there's a million different things out there. I think that's one, because I haven't seen... I don't think it exists right now, like the half-hour specials. Yeah. It's all Netflix and, like, Hulu deals, right?
Yeah. Well, then you get someone like Steve Hofstetter, who just kind of, like, I'm going to make my own thing and put up, like, 10-minute clips of me, like, obliterating people.
And I worked with him, like, probably 9 years ago or something in Boston. Yeah. And that was... a trip and a half, because he really does some of the best crowd work ever. Like, he does all the destroying heckler moments, but like he's just good at crowd work. Yeah. Even if they're having fun, not heckling, and not being a douche, but like that is for comics especially. I think is like one of those things like, if only I could get away with all that. And like I say shit sometimes too that I'm like, why? Like if this was normal life, I would never.
So do you feel like you'd say you're more apt to say things on stage because you're like,
all the time
I'm on stage, and
it just comes out and people are having a good time and they continue laughing, so it's like why the fuck not? But like I don't, then I think back, like I listen back and I'm like, what the hell did you just say?
Do you kind of like try to keep stepping over that line to see if you can find out where that line is?
No, I just...
Or does it just happen?
It just happens.
Yeah. He is excellent crowd. There's an Irish comedian called Dara O'Brien.
It sounds slightly familiar.
He does some amazing crowd work, because like, like a good 20 minutes into his special, he starts being like, oh, where are you from? What do you do? Kind of joking about that. And then like at the end, like as he's wrapping it up, he somehow like works back this story of like, and you're gonna need a podiatrist just like Steve, and like I've literally on this podcast been like, all right, your last name is, and I'll be like, welcome to the Inebri-art podcast, I'm here with,
like, how
do you remember? Stare at them blankly, like I'm like, I can't remember your name from 3 seconds ago.
Oh, that's my favorite, is like when you get to that sort of point, like locally too. John Perrotta?
No.
Oh, you should check him. You need to go to one of his shows. Okay. He is like the master of that in Providence and like New England as a whole. Yeah. It's just so solid. He's like one of my biggest inspirations, honestly, of like why even bother doing crowd work in the first place. But it's fire. Like,
do you work clean?
Not normally. But I did a lot of that this weekend.
Intentionally?
Yeah. I wanted to challenge myself a little bit. I did the clean showcase at Improv Boston. Okay. I signed up for that a while ago, and when I walked into the green room, the comics there were like, you're on the clean show?
It's like, yeah, why?
Yeah. And they're like, well, that just went out the window. And I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'm not that dirty. I just, I don't know. I don't normally work that clean. Like, even on my profile for, like, Gig Salad or whatever, I'm like, you know, if you want someone who's squeaky clean, hire a fucking clown. Don't hire me for your kid's party or your church party. Like, I'm not the comic you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's not, like, crazy, like, but it's not that.
Right.
So, I just, I did that, and then Comic-Con, Northeast Comic-Con.
Oh, I saw that you did something there.
And there's like 8-year-olds that popped in the middle of it, so it's just like there's an open door.
I didn't even realize they were doing. Was that a new thing that they did there?
Well, right, it's the Boxborough Regency. So, like, I went to Boston Comic Con because I went to the Back to the Future panel.
Okay.
And that was really cool.
Yeah.
Totally nerded out at that, but then
Sarah's a big dork.
Yeah. Don't tell anyone. Mario 3 Back to the Future panel, and you see my book. Yeah, no, Northeast Comic Con though is like, it was tiny, but it's building. I think it's only in its like third year or something.
Yeah, it's been around for a little while, and it's kind of it's a weird thing going on at Comic Cons lately. I feel like there's a push to get away from these huge ones, where there's a lot of smaller ones popping up.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I find it weird. Like, I didn't think of, stand-up comedy as something that you would find.
Which I was like, I gotta check this out. I gotta see what this is about. And then I saw that Gilbert Godfrey was there, and I was like, oh,
was he
that's
really?
super cool.
Oh,
and
that's
then
neat.
I was like, no one's gonna come watch this show though.
Like, how was the crowd? Like,
they were. I've never been heckled by Princess Belle until this weekend, or like Chewbacca or whatever, like stormtroopers. No, they didn't heckle. They were just.
I was gonna say that takes some balls, being like dressed up as like a bad Thor, like heckling.
Yeah, no one actually heckled, which like I don't always mind, but it's it was odd because daytime comedy is the worst usually. Like, no one's like, yeah, let's have all the lights on. No one's really been drinking yet. And there might be children. Here's your hell gig. Yeah. So, and then add some costumes on top of that.
Did you write geek-specific jokes?
No, I have nothing about that in my act, nor was I going to change it. Of like, let me write some jokes real quick about that. I'm like, no, I'm just going to talk about what's going on right the fuck now. But I wanted to challenge myself a bit and just try to do it the rest of the weekend. Of like, let's see how clean we can go. And there was one show where there was all the kids had left, so I was like, here we go.
I can say fuck now.
Yeah, and it was a blast though. I met a lot of really cool people over the weekend, and I was like, that was an experience and a half. And like, yeah, daytime comedy sucks. But I wouldn't trade that weekend. Yeah.
You gonna sign up for the next...
No.
No, fuck that. I'm done.
But I might pop in and say hi. Yeah.
So, popping in, that's the famous comedian thing to do, to, like, pop in and basically...
I wouldn't be like, hey, here I am.
I'd like to take some time on stage. Like,
yeah, no, like like
what level do you have to be to pull that shit off?
It depends on the place.
Yeah. It's kind of like who you know kind of thing?
Who you know, who you've worked with for a while. Like, it depends on the show, too, because it's like, obviously, you're Ray Romano. You can just bounce down all the clubs down
wherever you want to
New
go.
York
Like,
City.
who's going to stop you?
Oh, here's Ray Romano. So fuck yourself.
I have 5 minutes.
I've been waiting 6 months for this spot, and Ray Romano bumped me. No, I think it depends on the place and how often you've worked with them and all that stuff. Like, try not to pull a whole lot of that as like being in the scene for the amount of time that I have. There's some shows I know I could probably be like, hey, let me get some time. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of fucked up, too. Like,
it's kind of a dick move.
And who am I? Also, no one gives a shit. And then,
you've written on video games that you don't even know what they're called.
Yeah. And I would never play.
Yeah.
Here's a puzzle game. What the fuck does that mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I suppose those do have scripts, too.
Yeah.
Do you slip in... like inside jokes to you? into this stuff?
Yeah,
Where
I
you-
mean,
Where you'd be like, this is funny to me. I don't know if anyone else is going to get it.
there's sometimes a lot of that happens unintentionally too.
Yeah.
It's, you know what? Never mind. That was just for me. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. So what do you have coming up? I don't know when this is going out.
Yeah, that's the question. Then.
Say... All right, no one talk while Fish looks this up and takes for fucking ever to find this information out. And it is his one job.
So is that like instead of you're like, hey Google or hey Siri, you're like, hey,
Hey
Fish.
Yeah, pretty much. But like, if we're out at the bar, like I don't even say hey. I'll just kind of like pose this random question, and he'll just be like, "Fuck," and he'll take out his phone. It's great. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, middle of April.
Middle of April.
The middle of April. Let me look.
Yeah. Fish, you didn't pull up her gigs.
Oh yeah.
Jesus.
I don't actually have internet access down here.
Oh.
Sorry.
Let's see. The middle of April. There's a lot of stuff in April. Yeah. I'm doing Crazy House. Yeah, at the Cape Verdean Club in Falmouth. Then I'm doing the Comedy Connection. Doing Elbow Room in Connecticut. Doing S&M comedy at Jock's Cabaret in Boston.
S&M comedy.
Yeah, it's
So, do you write specific jokes for that?
I think I can just do like most of like what I normally talk about and probably go off on a real tangent. 'Cause,
Yeah.
It's actually one of my favorite clubs because they have a bunch of drag shows that like I used to just go to all the time, and then they started doing comedy there, and I was like, oh, finally, someone like I've dreamt of being on this stage.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's a good time. Mitzi runs that, and Mitzi Picardo's hilarious.
Yeah.
Perfect setup for that. So I'm curious to see what that is.
Where is your favorite place to perform? Is there like one room where you're like, oh, this is just...
It's a room that doesn't exist anymore. So
where's your favorite room that still exists?
I don't know. Not in front of 4 people. Not in front of children. Basically, there's not my favorite place to perform. I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, okay, so...
It just has to be
what is the worst place you've ever had to perform?
yeah.
AJ told us about how he had to do a gig at a funeral.
Yeah, that takes the cake. I tell that story sometimes. People are like, listen, at least I didn't take the funeral gig.
I told him he's going to play my funeral.
Yeah, no, you think it's a good idea, but then it's like, no, why
No, I
would
think it'd be
agree
great.
with this?
I won't be there to laugh, but...
I've done a lot of hell gigs, a lot of good ones, a lot of hell gigs. It's hard sometimes to choose.
Yeah.
There's really awkward situations that you get yourself into. But
like, when people book these gigs, do you try and, like, talk about it and be like, you know, the church...
I'll say no
the
before I
church
just...
club is, or, you know,
Yeah.
the church wives club is not where you want comedy.
See, AJ's like a stage whore, and he'll just be like, let me take the funeral gig. And I'm like, I think you want someone else.
Yeah.
Like, no, I try and add a little bit more discretion than I used to, because you get yourself into these fucking situations where you're like, I did this to me.
Yeah. But do you ever look at that being like, okay, this is a complete fucking shit show. I don't know what I was thinking.
And then you just, all you can do
But
is
there's
laugh.
probably some jokes here.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the whole funeral thing, that's a fucking funny story.
Well, we recently went up to Vermont.
Yeah.
We did a bunch of gigs up there, and AJ booked this Airbnb. It was like a cabin in the woods. That was the name of the Airbnb.
Okay.
And I was like, that's also the name of like a horror movie, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Like, where are we? And then I read the thing. It's like, no Wi-Fi. So I was like, uh-oh, this isn't good. This isn't going to be good. And he's like, oh, I didn't read that. I was like, okay, all right, we'll be fine. And then, like, there's just pictures of dead deer going up 3 flights of stairs of...
Just like it was like a hunting cabin?
hunting cabin. It would be quaint if I was a hunter, but I was petrified because I was like, oh, so they have guns, they know how to use them, and we can't call for help. That's cool. And then, like, the first rule of the Airbnb was to take off your shoes. I was like, great, so we can't run. Awesome. Check that off the list. And then it was EJ Edmonds, Edwa, AJ, and so they were like, you can have the, like, master bedroom because you're, like, the lady. And I was like, oh, you guys are so chivalrous.
Right.
And I went in to the room. There is a Red Sox hat in there that had a ponytail attached to it. And it was real human hair, and it was sewn in.
Shut up.
So it's like, we're gonna die. We're gonna die.
I'm gonna be the next hat. I know I'm gonna be the next hat.
I don't want to be someone's hair doll. I was like, this isn't even a reference to, like, any Red Sox thing. Like,
right. That's
like,
not like a...
Johnny Damon had long hair. Like, that's not a 2004 thing. Like,
right.
What the fuck happened here? And, like, who thought, like, you know what our guests would enjoy? this freaky
like,
fucking
why would
hat.
you leave that? That's so weird.
Right. Like, hide that somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's like, AJ, like, what were the reviews on the place? He's like, there aren't any yet. I was like, because everyone died.
They're all dead.
So I was saying, like, how scared I was about that in Vermont to the crowd when we were, like, almost up in Canada, and some lady comes up after the show and is like, I think that's my friend's Airbnb.
Shut up.
It's like, it's adorable.
Then you're like, whose hair is it?
Yeah. I was like, I'm not even going to get into that, but it makes me feel better that someone actually who's
calls
a real
them
person.
friend.
Yeah. They have people.
They haven't killed everyone they know. So, a brief story about the most fucked up, awkward gig I've ever seen, and I loved every second of it. So there's a place I used to hang around all the time. There more often now. It's called Luciosa's. And, 2-3 times a week they would have bands in. And the band was setting up, and there's, like, a couple kids, like, young kids, milling around. And you're like, oh, it's cute. They're here to see their dad, like, set up, play, whatever.
Sure.
And there's, like, 2 dudes, a woman, and then the woman, like, strapped, like, an infant to her back, like, in a papoose kind of get up, and then puts the bass on. And then, like, one of the other little kids gets behind the drum set. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? Because it didn't start till like 9:30.
Was it the Partridge Family? What the fuck was going on there?
Pretty much. And I'm like, this is the... And like, for kids, they were good. For a bar band, terrible.
Someone paid them more money.
And so everyone is clapping like way overboard because, they're little kids.
Yeah.
And immediately getting their check and leaving because it was so fucking awkward. And... So I know the owners. I called him. I'm like, dude, what the fuck's going on? And he's like, oh, the lead singer came in for like an open mic and was like, oh, this band. And he's like, yeah, it was pretty good. So he booked the band. You would never think to be like, oh, is half your band like under 10? And it was so fucked up. My favorite part was like he was standing there. I'm like, I called the bartender. I'm like, hey, Jackie, can I send the band over a round of juice box? He's like, fuck you, fuck you. To this day, it's one of my favorite things to bring up around him. It's just the world of performers are so weird.
And then people wonder why, like, as a performer, as a booker, whatever, people have these weird ass questions.
Right? Yeah, like,
because
is everyone in your band over 10? And you're like, yeah, why the fuck wouldn't they be?
Right? Like, this guy's weird.
Yeah.
It's because it's happened.
Yeah.
Right. That's.
So, Sarah, where can our listeners go to find you online, find out about your gigs? Do you have a YouTube channel?
I don't really do the whole YouTube thing much, really. I'll watch it, but no, you can go to my website, sarahmartincomedy.com, and then if you are like, I don't want to go to your website, I just want to follow you on social media, go to my website and find my social media.
Because that's too many words. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sarahmartincomedy.com. Thanks for coming in, man. That was fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
This was cool.
And they're already talking about like getting us back on Pack TV to talk about more things we don't really know about.
That sounds like a wise plan.
And one of us swore on Pack TV, and it wasn't me.
It was me.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we were allowed to.
Oh, did they say that?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, cool.
You got censored.
Did I?
Yeah.
I didn't watch it.
Oh, you didn't watch it? Yeah, you got censored because I just
Did
remember.
they beep it out?
Yeah.
I
remember,
want to go back and make it worse.
I just remember sitting next to you being like, I think I'm going to swear because I always swear. And you're like, oh, me too. And you beat me to it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I actually had
you
fun.
can swear. We're just going to beep it out.
Yeah. I love talking movies, so it was just when they started talking about the Academy Awards, so I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'd never heard of half these movies.
No, exactly. It's
let's talk about Black Panther. I've seen that.
Right.
No, but thanks for coming in for that. That was kind of like a kind of last minute thing, but they wanted a female perspective.
Oh, well, they chose the wrong fucking person. I don't know if that's...
I was going to say, you're female.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I speak for all females or you're stereo. I don't know.
Well, good enough for Plymouth Community Television.
I guess. Yeah. Right. No, that was... Then they're going to have us back to talk about, like, the fiscal year, I'm sure. So.
Maybe. I don't know what the fuck, you know. Maybe we'll just hijack it. We'll talk ahead of time, and we'll plan something and just, like, completely hijack the show.
Do it.
All right. That sounds like fun. I think Elizabeth listens to this show. So. But, yeah, thanks again for coming in, and, we'll get out and check out your comedy somewhere.
Cool.
When you're local.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right,
thank you.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. So thanks again for listening.